my topic is on traditional methods of conflict resolution in Kuki society. So, conflict, as we all know, conflict is a very important, conflict resolution is a very important part of every society, and then conflict resolution mechanisms are available in all societies, I believe. And one thing is that in the history of mankind, there has been many conflicts, and conflict becomes an inevitable and unavoidable part of life. So, today, I'd like to focus on the Kukis in the Northeast who have their traditional or customary practices of resolving conflicts. And who are the Kukis? The Kukis are the ethnic group inhabiting the Northeast region of Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, and most of them, some of them even have lived even in Myanmar and Bangladesh also. And they are ethnically related to each other in the the Kukis have got kind of ethnic relations in different parts of the Northeast and well in Bangladesh and Myanmar. And the objective of this study is to study what are the methods or mechanism of conflict resolution in Kuki society and to understand their function. And another important objective is to assess their effectiveness and relevance in the contemporary context. And the methodology that I applied in this study is mostly historical and analytical, and mostly I use secondary sources like books, journals, articles, and research papers, and I also did some telephonic interview with some experts. And in the Kuki society, and the chieftainship plays a very important role. The chief, whom we call as Hosa in Kuki, they are the most powerful and authoritative person in the society. Every village has got their own system of governance, like governed by the chief, and the chief plays a vital role there. And everyone gives respect and kind of homage to the chief, because the chief is literally considered as the owner of the land and master of the village. And Kukis have so many villages, and they function like semi-autonomous in their own village administration. And there are some few conflict resolution mechanisms in the Kuki society which I'm going to highlight. The first one, Himkham. Himkham is a very important conflict resolution mechanism in the Kuki society, which is applied when someone is being killed, or when there is, homicide. If I happen to, or if someone happen to kill somebody, in that kind of cases, whether it is incidental or whether it is intentional, in that kind of cases, Hemkham is applied, Hemkham. And why do we use Hemkham is because when we perform Hemkham, the idea is that the conflict should be resolved by two parties coming together and then having a kind of communal feast, which will be mediated by the chief. The chief will mediate between the two parties, conflicting parties, so that there is no revenge, or there is no conflicts afterwards. Okay, and it is considered as binding on the two parties because it will be mediated by the chief, and he will make sure that the conflicts is resolved mutually. And this resolve involves Vocha Tunga, as I mentioned. Vocha Tunga means wild boar, which is now becoming very rare in the Kuki society. But in the ancient time, Vocha Tunga is considered as a very important part of culture, because when something like this happens to resolve conflicts, what's a tunga? Tunga means we usually measure it with our palm. Measure how much is 2-1. So like example, like when we measure 1, this is 2-1, and then continues. So the pick, nowadays we use pick as instead of, in place of this wild boar. These are killed, and then the community, the two parties, the conflicting parties will come and feast together. In that way, conflicts are resolved. And the offenders, that is the culprit or the perpetrator, is asked to compensate the victim's skin with items like kichong. Kichong means beads. Beads I will show you in the later part. Beads. And another thing is da, which is gong, like Buddhist gong, which, and pondum, and a kind of saw. These are given to the king's family to show that there is a kind of restitution or a kind of reconciliation between the two parties, and as a kind of compensation to the victims. And another one is salam sat. Salam sat is also one of the mechanisms of resolving conflicts between the two conflicting parties. Especially, this is applied when it comes to resolving moral and social conflicts, morality and social conflicts like adultery, fornication, or premarital pregnancy. So these kind of things are considered as a kind of shameful thing, shameful act on the society. In that way, when somebody commits an extramarital affairs outside their marriage life, they will be asked to perform this salam sat. And here also the chief plays an important role. The chief is to mediate between the two parties. One thing is, when they perform salam sat, before that they will ask the person, for example, an unmarried husband, unmarried bachelor committed a kind of this extramarital affairs, or let's say adultery, or not adultery, exactly, outside marriage. Okay, before marriage they happen to cause a kind of pregnancy, that he will be asked to marry the girl. If he don't want to marry it, that they have to perform salam sat at the chief's place. In that way, if the person, the culprit, refuses to marry the person, the girl, then in that kind of situation, he will be asked to marry. He will be asked to pay fine or to perform salam sat, and this involves giving a seal, mithun, very important, mithun, which plays this is a very symbolic animal for the Kukis. Mithun will be, he will be asked to pay mithun and gong da, and even nowadays this has been practiced traditionally, but nowadays we use money. Money has become very important now due to the lack of this seal. Also, seal mithun has become, how to say, little scarce, and then at the same time, da, this is also becoming scarce. In that way, nowadays it is all mostly replaced by money. And the chief has to mediate between the two parties so that the social conflicts are solved through this salam sat. And another one is torti. Torti is also one mechanism which involves, which is performed only when two parties are in conflict and they cause bloodshed. If there's bloodshed or physical violence, in that kind of cases, the chief will ask the culprit to perform torte. Okay. So the torte will be performed by the perpetrator or culprit, and which literally means, torte means sweeping the ground. After the conflict, to cleanse the society from evils, from the bad things that are happening, what they do is, like, we have to do it away. Like torti means literally sweeping the floor, no? So that it's clean. The society has been wiped clean through the performance of torti by the culprit, and the chief has to overlook and mediate upon this also. So, as a part of this ritual, the offender must sacrifice a boar. Then is nowadays used as pig is used, a pig, and offer a jar of zoo, which is rice beer, and the chief and his counselors will feast on it with the two families, and they will decide on, they will take decision on the case. In that way, the conflicts are resolved. And another one is kitulut. This is tried by water. When two parties are in conflict, especially land disputes or property disputes, when both sides claim that this belongs to them. In that kind of cases, to find out the right person or to find out who is right and who is wrong, what we do is we go to the river and do a kind of ritual, punsam. We call punsam, which means you say a kind of prayer and then you ask them to go into the river in the water, and then the one who remains longer in the water is considered as just. In that way, conflicts are resolved. But this practice is like outdated nowadays. We don't do that anymore. But it's one of the part of our history and culture. And the last one is kanku. Kanku is kanku doesn't have a kind of no real meaning. I mean, it has a broader meaning, I should say. The term is like moral conduct or humanity, which is done when in the society which is performed. We are expected to perform this mkham everywhere we go to carry out light. Example, as I go out, how to respect the elders. Example, and then another thing is in case of in the family, in the Kuki family, there are brothers, and the elder one is supposed to inherit the property of the fathers. No? And there, it is the duty of the elder son to give the property to the younger ones. It is not compulsory for everybody. It's kanku. No? Kanku means kind of understanding, empathy, and in that way they have to do it. So one of the important part of kanku is communal fees. Okay, whenever there's a lot of conflicts in the society, the last part is fees. Communal fees will be there as a kind of reconciliation meal, and that meal plays a very important role because a family that doesn't eat together doesn't stay together. So there's a saying, no? And then in that way we ended every conflict with a feast, communal feast, and this is also part of kanku. Which the kanku means like you don't like a person, but still you act kind to them. You do the right thing, even though they are your enemies. You do the right thing. That is kind of kanku, no? And these are the traditional methods of the mechanism of conflict resolution in Kuki society, and this is between seal and then water to my wine bowl. With nowadays we use a pig as replacement, and then these are the beads. And effectiveness of traditional conflict resolution in Kuki society. In the traditional mechanism, conflicts are resolved very swiftly without any backlog. Okay? There is no backlog like the regular court, and then offenders face actually a kind of social integration. Instead of aliening them from the society, they are integrated into the society and then believe in spiritual accountability, such as curses upon those who violate peace agreements. These are actually considered as binding. The decision of the chief and these mechanisms are considered as binding on the people because they believe that if they don't do this, they are going to get a curse. In that way, it's binding. And then relevance is that these mechanisms actually they are the moral ethos of forgiveness and reintegration, and it continues to inspire modern peace-building initiatives. At the same time, despite the presence of modern legal system, many disputes, especially involving families, clan, society, mostly these are still solved in the Hausa court, the king's and the chief court. And these indigenous mechanisms emphasize mostly dialogue, compensation, and reconciliation rather than punishment, thereby restoring friendship and unity among the society. And the challenge is that nowadays the practice has been declining, especially in Manipur, Nagaland, and Mizoram, where the Kukis are mostly living. Their practice has been declining, and then their influences, getting a contrast with the legal system. The legal system, the modern legal system that we have, has got little contrast, and then in that way, the practice is slowly declining, especially in the developed towns and cities. In the villages, it's still prevalent, and then educated folks, mostly whom I have interacted with, they have noted that the village courts decision making can be influenced by external factors like maybe the insurgent groups or maybe money, muscle power. All this also play an important role there. And the way forward is that this mechanism can be formally recognized, integrated with the Indian legal system to handle local disputes. Like in Nagaland, they have what do we call Dobasa, where Dobasa look after the customary laws of the people. And the future studies can be compared with Kuki practices with other tribes to develop a broader understanding of indigenous peace building. Conclusion. So my conclusion is that the world needs peace, and that everywhere we need harmony. So this peace building process and mechanism can be studied so that it helps in resolving peace and resolving conflicts and helping the world build a better place. Thank you. Thank you so much.